Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
It's almost time, kids. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the Horathon. And remember the big giveaway at 9. Don't miss it. And don't forget to wear your masks. The clock is ticking.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Now, who didn't have that song stuck in their head after watching this movie? Halloween 3 is the third movie in the Halloween franchise. And this is the only movie in the franchise not to focus on Michael Myers at all. In fact, the first Halloween movie is played in the background in several scenes in the movie, but it has nothing to do with Haddonfield or any of the characters at all. So the idea was creators John Carpenter and Deborah Hill didn't want to continue on with the Michael Myers story anymore. In fact, the ending of Halloween 2 was meant to sort of bring an end to both the character and Sam Loomis. But the studio wanted to keep making more movies despite Halloween 2 being sort of a snore fest. And John Carpenter and the other producers had this idea that every year they would come out with a different Halloween movie that would focus on a different story that sort of surrounded the holiday. Kind of like Tales of the Crypt, where each episode was its own self-contained story featuring dark themes. And this movie did not do well, is mostly due to the fact that this was a Halloween movie without Michael Myers. That sort of rubbed people the wrong way, and it didn't get a real fair chance. And it's kind of hated by a lot of fans, but has developed a cult following after having video released onto DVD and most recently Blu-ray. So how is it really? After considering and looking at it as a film on its own, how is it? I mean, does it matter that Michael Myers isn't in it? In my opinion, no. And what do I think of the film? I think the film is fantastic. In fact, I would go as far as to say that this is my favorite Halloween movie out of all of the movies. I might even like this more than the original itself. I haven't decided on that, so don't kill me yet. But as far as compared to all the sequels and the Rob Zombie remakes, this one is my favorite. Halloween 3 follows a doctor played by Halloween 3 follows a doctor played by Tom Adkins who has this patient who is clinging to this mysterious children's mask for dear life, and this guy is later killed and found out to be a father to this girl, and this girl decides she wants to find out what happened to her father, and along with Adkins, they find out there's this conspiracy to sell these masks and market them to children, and these masks do this terrible thing when this certain commercial is aired, and it's sort of, and that's kind of the whole plot, is these masks are a way to kill a certain number of the population because the individuals selling it are this cult that want to sacrifice everybody, because supposedly it had to happen every couple of years or so. So the story's a little bizarre, and that actually kind of helps win it some points for me, because it's the problem with some of the Halloween sequels is a couple of them have a couple of interesting ideas and scary moments, but it's sort of the same thing over and over again, where it's this tall guy that walks slow, and it's basically it's a bare bones slasher film. But this is it's a horror science fiction that kind of hides that hides this horrific idea that people are controlled by consumerism. I mean, think about it. Us as adults, and especially kids, see commercials every day, everywhere. And through jingles and colorful characters, we are reminded of these things, and it puts something in our brain that makes us think later on, hey, I want to buy this, or hey, I want to participate in this product. And it's sort of a way of how people get brainwashed into buying these products, and that's how companies make their money. So what would happen if there was a more sinister agenda? It could totally happen like this, where these masks are marketed to kids, and this film is campy, and it's not apologetic for it, but at the same time, this whole idea of these kids buying into this whole mask thing is scary, because it could happen, and kids' minds are like sponge. They absorb these things, and they cling on to these things that are popular. I mean, we had the notorious Pokemon cards and G.I. Joe. McDonald's is probably the best example ever. I mean, a lot of recent parents have stated, my kid is really young, but yeah, he already knows who Ronald McDonald is. It's crazy how this sort of thing works, and I think that's what is so interesting about the Halloween 3 story. It has a lot to say about consumerism and how it can be very controlling of what people do and how people spend their money. And this film represents it in a very dark and frightening light. And another thing that I consider scary, so there's no particular monster in this movie, but there are these men in suits that sort of do the bidding for the guy that owns the Shamrock company. And these guys are robots that he apparently made, and these robots kind of go around and make sure that the factory is not being intruded upon, and making sure that anybody who's kind of looking into their business is, and these guys are scary in their own right, because I mean, they're humanoid robots who have no sympathy at all, and they are even willing to self-destruct to keep things quiet. And there's some unique kills in this movie too. But like I said, I think the story and the acting is really good too. Like, I think Tom Atkins was a great pick to play the main character. He's not the typical hero. He must have been in his late 30s, maybe early 40s when he made this movie. He's sort of a John Wayne type hero, but he's not. But he has his own flaws. He very early on tries to get with the female character, and that kind of made me laugh. I wasn't sure how to feel about it. I was like, man, this guy's kind of, boinking this girl really, really, really soon. And it's a horror movie, so it's kind of played for laughs, and I mean, the guy's a doctor and he's under a lot of stress, so it's whatever. That part of the film is kind of where it slows down for me, but once it gets to the point where they're breaking into the factory and trying to figure out what's going on, that's when things really pick up. And for me, that's when things get really exciting. And once he realizes what's going on, there's this real sense of urgency where he's trying to stop this signal from going out, because when he figures out what the masks do is they, by some sort of mesh of magic and technology, when the signal is set out by this commercial, it basically turns whoever's wearing it, turns their brains into insects, snakes, and other creepy crawlies, and it's disgusting. And then once they get out, they attack whoever else is in the room, and so this is how the evil company is planning on sacrificing everybody, and it's the whole thing. It's goofy and it's over the top, but somehow it works because it's played a good way in the main villain. The main villain is terrific. The guy that owns the Shamrock facility, he's sort of like a Willy Wonka type, but except it's Willy Wonka if he was like pure evil. It's sort of like he's sort of a mix of Willy Wonka and a Bond villain at the same time. So I love this guy, and he's it's like when he puts the mask on Tom Atkins, and it kind of explains what the whole plan and idea is, and then before he leaves the room, he's like, and have a happy Halloween, and it's just like the actor that plays him is absolutely terrific, and this almost feels like a John Carpenter movie to me because of the themes. These sort of themes, like the anti-consumerism, that was explored heavily in They Live, and they're explored in this film too. So, and he wrote it, so it's not a big surprise. But it wasn't directed by John Carpenter. Instead, like I said, it was produced by both him and Deborah Hill, and like one of his proteges directed this. I think it was Tommy Lee Wallace directed this, and he does a very good job of making almost the style and the way the film moves kind of feel like the previous two Halloweens, as far as sort of pacing and the way that the camera moves, and even atmosphere. It's kind of weird that even though the story doesn't have anything to do with two previous Halloween movies, it feels right at home because it's got the same style, but yet stands on its own. It's its own weird mesh, and I think it works terrifically. And the music soundtrack is another one of the film's strong suits, and of course John Carpenter made the music for this film as well, and I think it's just as good as the original Halloween soundtrack. It's really terrifying, it's really scary, and it was, in fact, a lot of it was used in some other horror movie trailers during that time. And I think this movie had this movie not had the Halloween title on it, I think it would have done a whole lot better. I think its cult classic status is well reserved, and I think people don't give it a fair chance. A lot of people who hate this movie, I'm like, why do you hate this movie? Why don't you like it? And they're like, well, it has nothing to do with Michael Myers or Loomis. And I'm like, so what else do you not like about it? And they're like, well, that's it. And that's the reason they don't really give it a shot. But I think the movie deserves a fair chance. If you go into it looking at it as its own thing, as it was meant to be seen, I think you will genuinely enjoy it. But if you can't get past the Michael Myers not being part of the story, then I'm afraid there's really nothing that can be done for you. But for me, Halloween 3 is probably like I said, my favorite of the sequels, if not the entire franchise. It's hard to beat out that original because the original is so terrifying. But I just think the writing and the style in Halloween 3 and the themes are just something that are very interesting, and something that I can revisit again and again and kind of come away with a new perspective on things. And I like it when movies and television series do that, where they mask social commentary inside of science fiction or horror. The Twilight Zone did that beautifully, and Creepshow did it to some extent, and Tales from the Dark Side and Tales from the Crypt were very good at this well, and I think Halloween 3 has its own place. It kind of would have been interesting to see if this film had been successful, what kind of other movies would we have gotten? Let me know below. What do you think the Halloween franchise would look like now if Halloween 3 had been a huge success. Would we have gotten a bunch of Halloween movies that were each their own self-contained stories, and would that have been better than the Halloween sequels that we've gotten? I know Halloween 4 and even 5 are liked by a lot of people, and then H2O has its fans as well, and Rob Zombie's Halloween has its fans. I like each of the Halloween sequels for different reasons and different levels. I mean, Halloween Resurrection is a guilty pleasure for me, but in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I think, is actually my favorite of his 2 Halloween movies, but we can talk about that another time. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. And remember, have a happy Halloween.